Hey, thanks, Alicia. So this story is about my former job. I used to be a banking attorney on Wall Street in New York City. And like most of the stories that I tell at Raconteurs, there's not going to be a big emphasis on narrative. It's going to be more a series of sort of interesting factoids and character sketches. And all they really have in common is that they happened one after another. So here we go. So this story happened in the summer of 2007 when I was interning at this firm that I ultimately ended up working at. The internship is more of a courtship. It's when the firm tries to seduce you to come back and work full time after you finish law school. So there are lots of sort of cocktail parties and lunches and dinners and events that culminates at the end of the summer with the so-called main event, which is a large party that our firm had at the Museum of Natural History. If you've ever seen the film Night at the Museum, I think, with Ben Stiller, that's the museum. If not, just imagine the ROM, but way bigger. And so our firm rented out the entire museum for the party, and we had a drinks reception in the main hall, which is otherwise filled with skeletons of tyrannosaurs and brontosaurs, this sort of thing. And then we went downstairs to this large sort of amphitheater, or I guess more of a pavilion with a domed ceiling, wherein is hung a life-size replica of a blue whale, which is Earth's largest mammal. It's 110 feet long. And we had a dinner dance under the whale. So cut to the after party, which is at a bar called Stone Rose, which is on the 4th floor of the Time Warner Center, which is a very posh shopping mall and condo complex on the southwest corner of Central Park. And the standard setup for the after party at the firm is that there's a private bar sort of roped off for us so that we can drink for free, but you're still free to sort of like mingle around with everybody else at the bar. And my attention that evening was focused on the 2 recruiting girls who were chaperoning the event. Why is this? Well, you can probably imagine that the staff that the firm hires to recruit young lawyers are very young, very beautiful, and very smart. They're almost exclusively girls with liberal arts degrees who want to live in Manhattan after their undergrad, but this is, of course, very expensive, so they work HR at large law firms and investment banks for a few years before deciding to go off and do something else. I kid you not, the names of these 2 girls were Spencer and Rain. Just picture it. Okay, so cut to the end of the night. Let's say it's like 2 o'clock, and the only people left in the bar are staff and me and Spencer and Rain. And I know all the guys here are thinking what I'm thinking, which is that 2 girls equals 2 chances not to fuck this up. And that's when Tom arrives on the scene. Tom White is another intern like me. He's a really nice guy, affable, incredibly smart. And also, I think this room is like functionally alcoholic. And I don't mean to be funny. Like he drank all the time. I've never actually encountered a person like this before, but a lovely guy. But he apparently he passed out in the coat check of Stone Rose the whole time, unbeknownst to even the staff who were otherwise like saying goodbye to me and the girls as we were leaving. And then Tom just sort of stumbled out of the coat check, and he would have otherwise just been sort of like locked in if he hadn't come out at that moment. So this is fine. So now we have Tom, and we're out in the mall proper, and there are no escalators this high up in the mall. There's just elevators, and I guess they turn off the elevators late at night. So we can't get out, and we're kind of confused and drunk, and so there's like fire escape backstairs sort of thing. So we go through which we go, and of course the alarm goes off, which is like disorienting. I don't know if you've ever been backstage at a mall, but there's a lot of shit back there. There's like clothing racks and garbage bins and like mannequin torsos. It's really hard to navigate, even if you don't have 200 pounds of drunk as fuck in the person of Tom White that you're trying to carry along. And we're on the 4th floor, so we have to go down 4 floors. So cut to now, we're in a cab. Tom and I are in the backseat of a taxi going north to Harlem. I've literally fallen on my sword in respect of Rain and Spencer, and agreed that I will take Tom home. And I know that he lives in Harlem. He's staying in Harlem for the summer, but I don't actually know his specific address. And Tom is now passed out totally in the taxi, so I can't ask him where he lives. So, of course, what I do is I phone the law firm's 24-hour operator. So something that maybe people don't know is that when you go to work at a large firm in New York, a law firm, an investment bank, you have to give over all of your contact information. So every phone number, email address that you have, your parents' address, your partner's address, if you have multiple houses, so if you're a partner and you have a summer house or whatever, all of this information has to be available so you can be reached all the time, which is a bit kind of scary, but it also has sort of beneficial uses. So at 9/11, for example, the planes actually flew over our office to crash into the World Trade Center. It's very close. And the firm is able to use this information to locate everybody in the firm, staff and lawyers included, and notify their families who don't actually have cell phone communication. So this sort of like, I'm not sure if omnipotent is the right word, but all of this information can be used to like locate you in the event of a terrorist attack, or help me find the address of a drunk associate in the cab on the way to Harlem. So I phone up the operator, and she answers and says, "Hi, Mr. Graham, what can I do for you?" Because, of course, my number is programmed into the system. And I said, "I need Mr. White's address," and she punches into the computer, and she says, "I'm sorry, I only have his New Haven address." So some people know what this is about. So there's this weird kind of like modesty or discretion in America for people who go to Ivy League schools. And it's like impolite to actually say where you go. So if somebody ever tells you that they go to school in Boston, that means that they go to Harvard. If they say New Jersey, that means they go to Princeton. And if they say New Haven, that means they go to Yale, which is where Tom goes. I know this. And I am totally floored in the back of the cab at like 3 o'clock in the morning that the firm is so conservative and white shoe that they instruct the 24-hour telephone operator that it would be impolite for her to tell another attorney that his colleague went to Yale. Amazing. So we can't actually find where Tom lives in Harlem. So we just have to turn around in the taxi and drive to where I'm staying for the summer, which is in the West Village, which is, if you know Manhattan, it's all the way at the other end of the island. So the whole taxi ride is like an hour. It costs about $100. The firm pays for all of this, obviously, or maybe not obviously. And I just sort of leave Tom on my couch and go to sleep. So the last cut to the next sort of midday, and I'm at the office, in my office, and the lights are off, and I'm just kind of sitting there because I'm pretty hungover. And Tom wasn't actually in my apartment when I woke up later that morning. He was gone. And he phones me at the office, which is a relief. And he's in his office. And he says, "Graham, thank you so much for taking care of me," and so on. And it turns out that he lost his briefcase somewhere along the line that evening. And he couldn't remember whether it was at the museum or whether it was at the bar. But don't worry, because he dispatched his secretary to find it. And so she'd gone to the museum in a taxi. It wasn't there. Then she'd gone to the bar, found it. And at that moment, she was speeding back downtown with his briefcase in a taxi, which the firm pays for. And the last thing he said to me before hanging up was, of course, "Let's have drinks after work." Thanks.